Good to have you join us on International Tit-Bits on Atlantic Television Network. This is a show where we bring you news, events, and stories from across the world. Here we ensure that the real on-time news are packaged for the viewing pleasure of the people. And today we'll be looking at some numbers story. But before we proceed to the headlines, I won't be doing this alone. I have my co-host in the house, Anita Barr. Thank you, Anita, for joining me.
Thank you, too.
And now to the headlines. This one is coming from Zimbabwe. Voters in opposition's stronghold laments delay. From Niger, Algeria begins mediation in 3 ECOWAS countries. Here from Niger, ECOWAS called junta's 3-year transition plans provocation.
From Ethiopia, government announces joint Saudi probe into alleged migrant killings. And from India, railway bridge under construction collapse claims at least 26.
This and many more stories we will be discussing after this break. Stay with us. Why delay?
See where my eyes is. The front I'm looking at right now.
It's delay.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
human trafficking.
Honorable they are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
What's I am
No agreement with the EU, but
from the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring.
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what's the blood.
I have fought a very firmly.
natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
Welcome back. This is International Tit-Bits on Atlantic Television Network, and now the details. Election officials extended the voting in Zimbabwe's presidential election until Thursday after delays of up to 10 hours in mostly opposition stronghold as President Emmanuel Emerson Mnangagwa seeks his second and final term in a country with a history of violent and disputed election. Chaotic scenes characterize some polling sections in Zimbabwe as ballot papers that has been delivered up to 10 hours later on, as officials said, to suspend voting Wednesday night in many stations, especially in large urban areas, including the capital, Harare. At the Heron Park Primary School polling station in Harare, people showed and shouted at election officials and police officers after they were told to return Thursday morning because ballot papers for local council election has run out. We are not going anywhere. We will sleep here. People who had waited since early morning shouting in chaos. Substation has not received ballot papers by 7 p.m. when voting was scheduled to close. I have waited 5 years to vote, and these hours won't kill me, said Catherine Yakagungwa, and carried her 6-month-old baby on her back since arrived at 7 a.m., only for ballot paper to arrive more than 9 hours later.
Algeria on Wednesday sent its Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf on a tour of Nigeria, Benin and Ghana to help find a way out of the Niger crisis, Algerian diplomacy announced. Minister Ahmed Attaf, mandated by President Abdelmadjid Tebboune, begins to Wednesday working visits to Nigeria, Benin and Ghana, the ministry announced on its X account. He will hold consultations on the crisis in Niger and ways of dealing with it with his counterparts in these countries, which belong to the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, the ministry said. The aim is to contribute to a political solution that will spare this country and the entire region the repercussions of a possible escalation of the situation. Algerian diplomacy has a long history of mediating or attempting to resolve numerous international conflicts.
The West African bloc ECOWAS rejected the proposal by Niger's munition soldiers for 3 years transition to democratic rule, with a commissioner describing the slow timeline as a provocation. The door for diplomacy with Niger juntas remain open, but the bloc is not going to engage in drawn-out talk and lead nowhere. Abel Fattah Marsh, the ECOWAS Commissioner for Peace and Security, pressed in an interview Wednesday. It is the brief among the ECOWAS head of the state and also the Commission that the goal in Niger is one coup too many for the region, and if we allow it, then we are going to have a domino effect in the region, and we are going to determine to stop it. March said while direct talk and back-channel negotiation are ongoing, they said the door to diplomacy wasn't open infinitely.
Brazil, India, China, South Africa summit has raised more curiosity and conversations around lifting of regulations that hamper the bloc's goal to create a new currency for the bloc. This new BRICS currency is expected to increase intra-trade between the nations, this particularly for small enterprises. Global economic recovery relies on a predictable global payment system and the smooth operation of banking, supply chains, tourism, and financial flows. We will continue discussions on practical measures to facilitate trade and investment flows, said President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. One of BRICS members, China, said in order for financial development to occur, the bloc has to cooperate financially with each other. We, the BRICS nations, should strengthen ourselves through unity and act on the strong sense of responsibility in enhancing cooperation across the board and promote high-quality development as to bring to the world more certainty, stability, and positive energy. We should deepen business and financial cooperation to boost economic growth. Development is an inalienable right for countries, not a privilege, stated President of China Xi Jinping. Meanwhile, South Africans on the streets say they hope deliberations at the summit will positively impact them.
The Foreign Ministry tweeted Thursday asked the government will jointly investigate with Saudi authorities a report by the human rights group of killing of hundreds of its nationalists. The ministry called for restraint and advised against making unnecessary speculation until an investigation is completed, saying the two countries enjoy excellent, long-standing relations. A Saudi government official speaking on the conditions of anonymity because he was not authorized to speak publicly called the Human Rights Watch report unfounded and not based on reliable source, but did not offer evidence to support their assertion. US-based group Human Rights Watch released a report on Monday citing eyewitness accounts of attack by border guard in Saudi Arabia using machine gun and mortar of unarmed Ethiopian trying to cross into the kingdom from Yemen.
At least 26 people have been killed and more are feared missing after a railway bridge under construction collapsed in northeastern India, officials said. The incident occurred near the town of Sairang in state of Mizoram. Up to 40 workers were at the site when part of the bridge collapsed, according to local media reports. The cause of the incident is not yet clear, and the railway authority has opened an investigation. 3 people have so far been rescued. That includes an injured worker who had to be brought down from the top of one of the bridge's 100 meters high pillars. The incident happened over the Kurong River at about 20 kilometers from the city of Aizawl, Mizoram's capital. All possible assistance is being given to those affected, said Prime Minister Narendra Modi's office in a statement. The government will pay the sum of 200,000 rupees to the next of kin of those killed, it added.
Rudy Giuliani, who was Donald Trump's personal lawyer, has surrendered at the jail in Atlanta, Georgia, on charge of helping Mr. Trump trying to overturn a 2020 election loss in the state. Mr. Giuliani, whose bond was set at $150,000, faced 13 charges, including racketeering. The former New York mayor is one of the 19 people, including Mr. Trump, indicted in the election interferences case. Mr. Trump has said he will attend jail to be booked on Thursday afternoon. Leaving the fallen county jail, Mr. Fulani told reporters he was honored to be involved in the case.
Nicaragua's government on Wednesday declared the Jesuit religious order illegal and ordered the confiscation of all its property. The move came 1 week after the government of President Daniel Ortega confiscated the Jesuit-run University of Central America in Nicaragua, arguing it was a center of terrorism. The confiscation order published Wednesday claimed the Roman Catholic order had failed to comply with tax reporting. It was the latest in the series of increasingly authoritarian action by the Nicaraguan government, the Catholic Church, and the opposition figures. The Jesuit order, known as the Society of Jesus, has condemned the measures. University of Central America in Nicaragua was a hub for 2018 protests against the Ortega regime. After last week's announcement, the Society of Jesus of Central America said in a statement, this is a government policy that systematically violates human rights and appears to be aimed at consolidating a totalitarian state.
A suspect in custody after allegedly attacking a family in their New York City home with a hammer fatally struck the mother and seriously injuring her 2 young children. Authorities said Wednesday. John Chell, chief of patrol for the New York Police Department, said it wasn't clear what prompted the brutal attack in Brooklyn's Sunset Park neighborhood. Neither the suspect nor the victims were identified. The woman was 43, Chell said. Her children are 5 and 6, he said. The attack occurred shortly before 2 p.m. in an apartment where the suspect and the victim lived, authorities said. The home had 3 rooms and were occupied by 3 separate families, Shell said. The suspect lived with 9-year-old son in one room and victim lives in another room, Shell said. The third room was occupied by the single person, he said.
Since President Joe Biden took office, billions of dollars have been funneled into Nevada and other states through public infrastructure and clean energy investments. But amid stubbornly high housing and gas prices, voters in Reno, who spoke to NBC News, are split on whether they notice a benefit. Everything is exceptionally expensive for no reason, said Nicole Coley, a food truck business owner and a Democrat, pointing to the cost of gas, meat and bread. It's outrageous, she said, of gas prices. It's crazy. It hurts every time I put the pump in my tank. The average gas price in Nevada is $4.47, according to AAA. That's down from the average cost of $4.91 a year ago, but it's still higher than the current national average of $3.85. In recent months, the Biden administration has blitzed across the country to tout the president's economic agenda, dubbed Bidenomics. Last week, they touted the Inflation Reduction Act, a signature part of his economic agenda, on the first anniversary of a legislation signing.
The Food and Drug Administration is urging people to stop using certain brand of eye drop found to be fungal and bacterial contamination. The drop is questioned are Drugs Bears MSM Drop 5% Solution and Lighthouse MSM Eye Drop Eye Repair. Both are sold online but are not considered illegal because they contain an ingredient called methamphetamine of MSA. The chemical is sometimes used to try to treat athletes. It is not approved for use in eye, although there are unapproved claims online that it can be used for the range of eye problems, including dryness and floaters. There are no legal marketed Olympic drug and contain MSAs as the active ingredient. The FDA wrote in a warning date August 22. While there were been no reports of injury associated with using the drug, federal regulators found contamination is simple of the drop and could pose a risk to consumers.
India's moon rover has taken first steps on the lunar surface a day after the country made history by becoming the first to land near the South Pole. Chandrayaan-3's rover ramped down from the lander and India took a walk on the moon, the space agency said. The Vikram lander successfully touched down as planned on Wednesday evening. With this, India joins an elite club of countries to achieve a soft landing on the moon, after the US, the former Soviet Union, and China. A 26 kg rover called Pragyan was carried to the moon in the Vikram lander's belly. After the dust raised by last evening's landings had settled, panels on the side of Vikram opened to deploy a ramp to enable Pragyan to slide down to the lunar surface. It will now roam around the rocks and craters, gathering crucial data and images to be sent back to Earth for analysis.
North Korea's second attempt to put a spy satellite in space has failed 3 months after its first launches crashes into the sea. The attempt on Thursday morning fell during the third stage of its flight, state media said. For North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, a spy satellite is a coveted prize as it was led to monitor incoming attacks and plot its own more accurately. Pyongyang, a space agency, has said it will try again in October. South Korea said it deleted the launch of its rocket at around 3:50 local time, and it has been flown through international airspace over the Yellow Sea between mainland China and Korean Peninsula. The launch prompted an agency warning in Japan's South Moscow Prefect minutes later urging residents to take cover indoor and at last left after about 20 minutes.
Technology giant Nvidia says its sales have hit a record after more than doubling its demand for its artificial intelligence chip soars. The company says revenue jumped to about $13.5 billion for the 3 months to the end of June. Nvidia also expects sales to soar further in the current quarter and plans to buy back $25 billion of its stock. The firm's shares rose by more than 6.5% in extended trading in New York, adding to their huge gains this year. Nvidia also said it expects revenue of around $16 billion for the 3 months to the end of September. That is much higher than Wall Street's expectations and would equate to a rise of around 170% compared to same time last year. A new computing era has begun, Nvidia's chief executive, Jensen Huang, said in a statement. Companies worldwide are transitioning from general purpose to accelerated computing and generative AI, he added.
An Israeli former principal will spend up to 15 years in jail for sexual harassing two students at an ultra-Orthodox Jewish school in Australia. Mel Talifa raped and indecently assaulting sisters Darcy Erich and Ellie Sapa between 2003 and 2007, a jury found in April. The 56-year-old was found guilty of abusing a third sister, Nicole Meyer. Lucifer sentenced into a 15-year push for mother of 8 to face justice. She had pleaded not guilty to more than 24 charges and spent years fighting extradition for Israel, but in 2021, an Israel judge found he had faked mental illness, avoid facing the court, and ordered he would be sent to Melbourne. During a lengthy trial, the jury heard evidence and Lucifer had abused the sister in locked classroom and school camp, and at that teacher's home. Detailing the 18 charges on Thursday, Judge Mark Gamble called her offending in serious.
A shrub will be planted at the International Bomber Command Center near Lincoln to mark Ukraine's Independence Day later. The Guelda rose is the national shrub of Ukraine, and the planting has been organized by Lincoln's Ukrainian Cultural Center. More than 1,350 Ukrainians have made the county their temporary home since the Russian invasion. It is 32 years since Ukraine gained independence from the Soviet Union. Valeria Kronchak, founder of the center, said, "We have chosen Ukrainian children to plant the Chervona Kalia, a red viburnum, as we believe children are the future of Ukraine." During the ceremony, we will also honor the memory of all those who have died in this war with a minute's silence. The service, which starts at 1800 BTS, will take place in the IBCC's Jubilee Grove and will be marked by the signing of the Ukrainian national anthem and the flying of the joint Ukrainian-UK flag.
The first Republican 2024 presidential debate has seen passionate clash between its rivals vying to display the absence fought runner Donald Trump. The contender blew on stage in merely week assassin over the economic Ukraine and their record. While most were reluctant to attack Mr. Trump, some of the hopeful did condemn and show no ex-presidents. The eventual winner will challenge the Democratic candidate, probably President Joe Biden, in November 2024 on stage in the Fox News primetime showdown on Wednesday night, where Florida Governor Ron DeSantis detects entrepreneur Vic Ramaswamy, South Korea Senator Tim Scott, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, former Vice President Mike Pence, former Alaska Governor Aka Hutchinson, and North Qatar Governor Dong Dobrum.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak did not properly declare his wife's shareholding in a childcare company, which stood to benefit from new government policy, but the failure was inadvertent, Parliament Standards Watchdog said on Wednesday. Parliament's Commissioner for Standards began investigating Sunak in April after opposition parties raised questions over media reports Sunak's wife, Ashata Mothi, was a shareholder in a company said to benefit from supports for the childcare sector. The Commissioner, Daniel Greenberg, is responsible for the House of Commons Code of Conduct and investigates any alleged breaches. Publishing the conclusions of his investigation, Greenberg said Sunak should have declared the shareholding when being questioned on the policy by a committee of senior lawmakers, but that he was satisfied the British leader had confused the rules on registering and declaring interests.
This is International Tit-Bits on Atlantic Television Network. You return after this break.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
Human trafficker.
Honorable they are not picking our calls. They made up their minds. I am in the
with the EU, but
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring.
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what's the blood.
I have fought very firmly.
natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
Welcome back. This is International Tit-Bits on Atlantic Television Network, and now to the rest of our stories. Prince Harry is expected to return to the United Kingdom next month to attend a charity award ceremony on the eve of the first anniversary of Queen Elizabeth's second date. The charity Well Child said Thursday, Harry, a long-time patron of the UK charity Well Child, will attend his annual award ceremony in London on September 7 to mark the achievement of the seriously ill young people. He is not expected to be joined in his wife Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. The royal withdrew from the same charity award ceremony last year, which took place on September 8, the day that Elizabeth's grandmother died. She died at Balmoral, her beloved Scotland country estate at 96 years old after resigning from 70 years. Harry, who had flown in from the United States, flew to Scotland to be with members of the royal family. Vietnamese Wafrostina Delish nuclear power plant operator said it's begun releasing a space barge of treated radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean on Thursday, a controversial step and prompted China to ban seafood from Japan. In a live video from a control room at the plant, Tokyo Electric Power Company holding shows the staff members turning on a seawater pump with a click of the mouse, making the beginning of the controversial project that is expected to last for decades. Seawater pump activated, the main operator said. Confirming the release was on the way, TEPCO later confirmed that the seawater pump was activated at 1:3 p.m., 3 minutes after the final step began. China is looking forward in a depth discussion with the United States on resolving economic and trade issues when its Commerce Secretary, Gina Raimondo, visits next week. China's Commerce Ministry spokesperson said on Thursday, Raimondo is due to Belgium and Shanghai for talk with government officials and U.S. business leaders, making the latest in a recent series of high-level visits aimed at lifting a slide in relation between the world's two biggest economies. We will notice that China and the U.S. have encountered some difficulties and challenges in bilateral trade and investment when they were related to the serious trade protection measures adopted by the U.S. side. The military spokesperson Zhou Zhongye said China will continue to raise relevant economic and trade concerns with the U.S. and strive to create a fair and stable economic and trade environment, he said. The U.S. nurse who was kidnapped